From AM 1680, this is Business Leaders with Lance Cardoza, the behind-the-scenes story of the business shakers and movers in the Valley and beyond. And now, here's your host, Lance Cardoza.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. We got the Fresno State music playing because in the house we have Fresno State here today. We have a graduate of Fresno State, Julia Vella. I call her a friend. I know we've just met not too long ago, and we met through social media.
We did,
Twitter, and I was looking for a good broadcast journalist, somebody that could be a correspondent for the Fresno Grizzlies television. Mm-hmm. And I come across, I was going through, looking at Twitter, we was just joking about before we went live here with Business Leaders Live. I went through and I thought it was Julia Lopez.
Yeah.
And a professional broadcaster for Sports Central with CBS 47.
Yeah,
and
Julia's awesome.
She's awesome. She knows her stuff. And I went through there and I went, oh, there's Julia, and just passed over it. And then I went back and wait a minute, this isn't Julia. This is somebody else. And I would listen to your report. And I thought, wow, she's got promise to go do something in TV news.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I remember the report. It was a baseball softball preview I put together.
That's what it was. It was a stand-up shot.
Yeah.
I think you were doing a package, and I watched it, and I remember going back to the president of Fresno Grizzlies saying, I think I found somebody who'd be perfect to add some little more value to the TV broadcast and maybe report from the team store, and then we can do interview with players. So we're getting to that point.
Yeah.
And now you're with the Grizzlies.
I am. I love it.
So you were directing on the board last night.
Yeah, I was.
The Grizzlies.
Yeah,
so.
It was awesome. I've directed a few times for them now, and I've been lucky enough to have an awesome staff there. They've got, the people there are so helpful. I have experience directing for the Mountain West Network with Fresno State, but equipment's different everywhere you go. It's bigger there. And Jordan Kemp, their usual director, he's been awesome. He went to Fresno State too, actually, studied the same major, and he's been super helpful. And it's funny because he'll come in and, it's his kind of day off from directing, and I'm jumping in and catching on and kind of learning to take over for him. And he's on center field camera kind of talking me through it from way out on the other side of the field because we're on headset. But, it's awesome. It was a really fun night last night. Grizzlies had a shutout, so
yeah, it was 8-0, right, against Omaha. Yeah, it was great. And this matchup, they've been pretty much battling pretty aggressively.
It's been an aggressive, I think tonight's game, last night of the homestand, it's going to be a good game.
Good game. So when I came across, I on Business Leaders every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., you can catch past business leaders by going to lancecardoza.com. That's LanceCardoza.com. And you can also catch us live on Facebook. We're on Facebook Live on Talk Radio 1680 KGED as well. And the broadcast you can catch anywhere in the world on my1680.com. So every week I have a different business leader. And typically the business leader is someone that's they're in their tenure. They've been going for some time. They've had trials and tribulations, and they've been in the trenches of business. But I like to also motivate young minds in business to believe in themselves and really go after it. And at the same time, know that those trials, those tribulations are right around the corner at all times, and we deal with it even as a young person. But when you get deep into business, it doesn't go away. It's still there for you. And you got to be in the trenches and keep fighting for what you want and what you believe in. And you are a true professional in everything I've seen you do so far. And I know that you're going to do well in this business.
Thank you.
And you're well diverse. Not many broadcasters can work on the other side. A lot of times they can work on camera and they're great on camera, but the production side, they don't understand it. And that's not my department. In today's world, as you know, with even TV news, the person on camera is also running camera. They're also editing their packages.
Yeah, they are, absolutely. And I've been lucky enough to have wonderful instructors at Fresno State and one of them, Kim Stevens, is still an anchor on Great Day, and Faith Sidlow is also a reporter. I think she was an anchor too.
Yeah, Faith was with, I believe, KC24 for many years. Yeah.
And they're great, and they've had wonderful experience, and they've been able to send that to us and show us, it's not enough now to just be good on camera. You need to have a presence behind the camera. You need to know how to do production. You need to know how to edit. And I got a lot of that experience from Fresno State too when I started there as an intern. And so it's funny because I think if you look at my social media, you see like the on-camera stuff. That's kind of what I promote. But really, that's probably the thing I have the least experience doing, because before any of that, I picked up a camera and I started doing production things on the other side of it and doing the board show for Fresno State and doing the Mountain West broadcasts and just really anything I could get my hands on.
So when someone's listening to the radio right now on Talk Radio 1680 KGED, they hear the board show and they're going, what is the board show? So not everybody knows what the board show is. So explain to the listeners, what is a board show?
So like the board show, if you go to any athletics event at the Save Mart Center, you've got the video board up above you that you're watching and you're seeing the replay on there. We have somebody in a back room doing replay. We have somebody directing the show. It's a lot on the marketing side. We have a lot of sponsors. So it's, making sure the sponsors get their recognition, get their slides up on there, their graphics and whatever else that is. Yeah. And it's all very scripted. It's all very timely. And I think people don't realize how important it is until something doesn't work. And people are like, hey, where's the board? Yeah. So that was, we used to have somewhat of an outdated system back there. And so, it was challenging. We did it I did the technical directing off of 2 MacBooks at one point, and one of them loved to crash all the time. And I was a new intern, knew nothing about production, and I remember wanting to cry the second day because I thought I ruined the board show, and really it was a glitchy MacBook. So I started coming in 4 hours before the games just to make sure I had everything loaded in, making sure everything would run right.
Restart the MacBook, do all the details you
know
had
all
to
the
do.
Quirks, and so.
And in live production, anything can go wrong. And here's a perfect example: we're live on the radio, and we're also live on Facebook. And in the past, we've done a transition. You probably heard a cymbal a few minutes ago. Mm-hmm. And David, we've got our producer, David's laughing over there. If you don't take off the transition, it has a symbol on the webcast. Wow. So that's we got rid of the symbol. So
gotcha. Yeah.
I did a whole broadcast with Dan Taylor.
And cool.
Dan Taylor does the color analysis. He was with ABC 30 as a broadcaster for many years. And he was on the show. And the whole time we kept hearing this symbol. We couldn't figure out what the symbol was. It was the transition every time they would switch to a different camera or to a visual.
So you're just trying to fancy it up with a little music in there.
I thought I was hearing things, truly.
That's
awesome. He was like, no, I'm hearing the symbol too. So anything can go wrong in a live production. And I always tell people we're not saving lives here, but we're trying to give the fan experience, the best fan experience that you can, the viewing, the listening experience. So when you do that, what do you do when things go wrong? And that's what is truly a great leader, a director, a producer, is when things go wrong, what do you do? Do you sit there and fold? Do you cry? Do you want to cry? Or do you just...
can't. The show must go on.
Must go on. You've got to pick it up and move forward.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that my boss and one of my, I guess I'd call him a supervisor, had taught me when I came to Fresno State. It was like, the best qualities that I picked up here were in troubleshooting, just figuring out what's wrong. If we're not getting a camera feed, is it because of the camera? Is it because of the cord? Do we have the camera on the wrong setting? We need to check all these things. And, if it's like we're getting a wireless feed, we need to check that. We had just some little quirks. It was like we were trying to get a wireless feed from our center field camera at Fresno State, and we just figured out it was like an inch too short from where we were trying to have it reach. So it's like we would have to prop something up 2 inches, and it makes the biggest difference. So it could be something tiny like that, but you've got to figure out what it is, or you're not.
You have to troubleshoot and Don't give up. Don't give up. And I, for a long time, Life Touch. You ever heard of Life Touch? It's a school photography company.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm familiar with the name, but
the name, yeah. So for over the years, your parents probably wrote many checks to Life Touch, and I was a part of Life Touch for many years, an employee ownership company. And I spent my time there. I felt like it was, I was in prison for 10 years, but I learned so much with dealing with people and dealing with troubleshooting, running 40 to 50 different cameras a night in so many different states, photographing church directories. And then we had sales people also. And the technology back then there was no digital photography. We shot film through almost like a two-way mirror, like a teleprompter.
Oh, wow.
And then we captured an image off the mirror into a digital format in this huge box that Kodak had made. And it was like we were the only ones doing digital. And it was wow, we were big time. Big old floppy metal disc that we would capture images on that we spent like $600 for these scan discs that now are peanuts and they're really small.
Yeah.
But the technology's changed so much. But I remember a photographer one time calling me in total panic. Got 40, 50 families waiting to be photographed. The camera, it's black. Something's wrong. The shutter's stuck. So I said, okay, fire the camera. And then we can hear it. I could hear it on the phone. And I thought, okay, did you go to the front of the camera? And he went around to the front of the camera. Look into the lens. Do you see the flap going? No, it's completely black. But you hear the camera,
Yeah.
right? I said, okay. Did you take the lens cap off?
Of course.
He paused for about 20 seconds. And I thought, all right, you're good to go.
Oh my God.
So sometimes it's the simplest things, but you have to go through and troubleshoot, do what you need to do, because you never know.
Yeah, and because when it's not the simplest things, it's like, all right, we got to try everything.
Try everything, yeah. You rule out all the things you know, and then you go from there. You're listening to Business Leaders Live. Lance Cardozo. I'm sitting here with Julia Vella. We're going to take a short... Am I saying your last name right?
Vella.
Vella.
It's like Vella, but with a V. That's how I tell people.
Was it like umbrella, Vella?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Julia Vella. We are live in studio here at Talk Radio 1680 KGED. Join us on Facebook Live, also on my1680.com. We'll be right back with more Business Leaders Live. In mind, we're still on Facebook, but I think they're trying to fix something.
Gotcha.
Are we down on Facebook?
Yeah, that was my bad.
Oh, we're down. Okay, so we're not on Facebook.
Yeah, I thought I took it off. But
Okay. Yeah, I've heard it the first time. Yeah. I did a whole show with that damn symbol.
Really?
Yeah, so at least we're on Facebook. Yeah, and finally I took off my headset during a commercial break, and Dan goes, "Are you hearing a symbol too?" I'm like, okay, it's not me.
Yeah,
I thought
you're
it was
not
a crazy
crazy.
guy outside going, "Shh."
You know those little monkey toys?
Yeah, I was like, what is going on?
Oh, that's too funny.
But we did the whole show that way. Yeah, and then we transition between Dan doing this and Dan with some players. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, no.
And you're just hearing things all over the place.
Yeah, so his whole show has symbols throughout it.
Wow. Just a little extra color.
Yeah, because they couldn't hear it on that
Musical
end.
value.
Or he couldn't hear it because he's running the switch, but
Yeah.
he doesn't have audio feed. Yeah, so when we come back, we'll talk about going to school.
Okay, cool.
And trying to figure out what you were going to end up doing. And did you always want to do this?
I had no idea what I was doing when I went into
No idea.
college. I didn't even know you can major in being like a broadcaster. I was like, I thought people just knew stuff and
Yeah, we're going on
started doing
camera
it.
and they just jumped right in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I thought. And then when I toured the department actually before I got into the department, and
We got time.
and so
Yeah.
and then I kind of like got a feel for it, and I was like, that's way cooler than what I'm doing in communications. It was more business-based communications, and it wasn't as creative. And when I figured out I could do journal, I've always liked to write. I'm big on writing. I think one of the pictures I sent you where I was like, I don't know if it's in there. I just sent you like every picture I had.
Yeah.
But where I was holding like the final program for basketball, it was like the first time my sports article had been published.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have had something published with them, a basketball article on a player who's actually from Bakersfield.
And you can, 1 minute, and you can write, which is another big tool to all this too, because a lot of times you write your own copy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're testing that noise.
Okay, cool. But we're going to be up during this piece, so I can say it. We'll be online with Facebook. Oh, we've been online. Good. Okay, well, you got a preview. I didn't know if we were still live or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
but
right, cool. So you're seeing the inner workings of how this all works.
behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes. When it's live, it's live. Sometimes you don't know when you're live.
Yeah.
Though. You said, oh, we're off air, and then you're really on there still. Yeah.
And you're like, oh, hello.
Yeah, hello. And then we'll talk about, when we go through school, we'll talk about a little bit about also back to social. What made me
Giving you
stop.
the inside story of business leaders in the Valley and beyond. This is Business Leaders with Lance Cardozo.
Welcome back, everybody. We're in studio right here at Talk Radio 1680 KGED. My name is Lance Cardozo. It's Business Leaders Live, talking with Julia Vella. And Julia, you came from Bakersfield.
I did.
Bakersfield, California.
Girl.
Valley Girl. And you went right from school right into Fresno State.
I did when I was 17. I graduated high school and moved straight to Fresno that fall in August. Lived with one of my best friends, shared a room for a couple years, joined a sorority, moved in there. And I've been here ever since.
So in Bakersfield, when you were going through school, did you have any idea that you were going to be in the business of broadcasting, communications, mass communications?
I had no idea. I honestly had no idea that you can major in broadcasting. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought people were just talented and, they knew what they were talking about and they jumped into it. I guess news-wise, I might have thought people were involved in political science, but I had no idea that Fresno State had such an awesome program where you could study journalism and broadcasting and, they got different emphasis that you can choose. So I'm the broadcast journalism emphasis, but there's a lot of people who do PR, multimedia, print journalism. So
absolutely, and they got a great from Betsy Hayes and Jan Edwards, and you mentioned
they have an amazing staff.
Kim Stevenson with
Kim Stevens with
CAMPH, right?
Yes.
Yeah, CAMPH.
Kim, Faith Sidlow, Carrie Higgins-Dobney. She's new to the department. She came from Oregon. She used to direct for a news station in Oregon and Portland. Okay. And so she's there now too, and they're all amazing instructors.
And I think at one time they had Don Priest. I think it was Don Priest, and I'm sure Faith is listening. She's like, yes, Don, he was great. And Don actually went to work over with CMAC, with a community collaborative media, mass communications media, which is a great place for anybody that's wanting to get their feet wet in doing video production and working in what Julia's working in now professionally. And this business of broadcasting is a very tough and challenging business because there's a lot of people gunning for those positions.
Oh, it's competitive.
Very competitive. And but to be well-rounded like you are in front of the camera and behind the camera is very rare that someone could do all those things. And a lot of times in this business, someone along the way will tell you, well, you got to be good at the one thing. Like, what are you good at, really good at?
Yeah, like pick your specialty.
Pick your specialty, and you got a gun for that. And I think you're pretty good at all the pieces you've done, because we talked during the commercial break, even writing too, as you're writing your own copy is very important. And you've done a real good job with that as well. Yeah,
actually going into college, I was a communications major as opposed to when I changed to mass communications and journalism later. But I chose communications specifically because I did a lot of public speaking in high school. And so, I knew I could physically communicate, and I loved writing. I've always been very passionate about writing. And this year I did actually a feature story on one of our seniors on the basketball team, Braxton Huggins, who's also a Bakersfield native, amazing basketball player. And I got to write a feature story on him and have it published. And that was kind of my first sports article being published. And I think Faith can probably speak on this. Almost every single article I did for every single one of my journalism classes was a sports article, to the point where it got to where she asked me, like, please write something not sports. And so I did do a business article, and then another one kind of on the Greek system in Fresno. And so I did a few different ones. You know, I have some variations, but sports are they're so fun to write about, and people love to read about them. So.
Exactly, and the human interest side of it, and that's what I love about business. It's really the same thing as sports.
Yeah.
Because they're in another playing field.
Exactly.
And they're continuing their athletic drive.
And there's competition.
The competition, the mindset, putting your year into quarters and winning every quarter, trying to do what you need to do in business. So I really look at it that way. And I see a lot of business leaders had an athletic background. There was something they had to do with athletics that was that driving force, that competitive driving force. And the real successful ones have that. So it was like life after sports.
Yeah.
I get it. I get that whole story. So business stories are pretty similar.
Yeah.
And telling those stories too. With talking about also young people being on the show, and I love to do that and change it up a little bit. And somebody that's a rising star, one of the things that we do at businessstreetonline.com is we host the 40 under 40 every year. And we always have individuals that are the rising stars in the 40 under 40. And before they reach the age of 40, they're recognized for what they've done in the industry. And you can go to 40u40.com. That's 40, the letter U, 40.com. And you can see all the past 40 under 40. But over the years, and now 14 years, I believe we've done it here with Business Street Online, that you can see some of the rising stars that ended up becoming mayor. They ended up going on to do big things in business. Other people that teamed up, that met through the 40 under 40 and started businesses.
Yeah, and that's networking together. In both of these fields is a big deal too.
Yeah, and the networking piece. So I love to have young minds on the show, as well as the people that have reached success and been there, that we get you first before you go on to do some big things. Yeah. And I really feel, Julia, there's big things in your future. Going through your social media, and when I was thinking of, we have to find somebody, and I tell this to young minds and Faith and other people at Fresno State, I hope you share this with students. But when I look at social media, and I tell this to youth all the time, and I don't want to call you youth, you're not youth, but in growing up and going through school, be careful what you put on your social media, because it lives forever. And someone could go through your social media to make the final decision on, is this a person do I even want to bring in for the interview or talk to them? And unknowingly, you knew that you didn't know that someone was looking at your stuff on Twitter to be a possibility to work with the Grizzlies at the time. So when I went through your social media, I saw that you were doing the stand-up piece. I think I saw you directing in an image. Yeah. And I saw that and thought, wow, well diverse. That's great. And then in the back of your mind, you think, well, she's young and she probably needs a lot more to learn and get out there, which you do. You're young.
Absolutely.
Yeah, everybody does. And so then you question it. Well, do I even want to spend more time to help develop that person to get them to where you need to be? Do we have time to do that where we just want to find somebody that just knows what they're doing? And what type of personality do they have? And then I came across a post. And
I know exactly what post you're going to say.
And the post had these two weenie dogs, these two dachshunds. And the weenie dogs, I read it and I thought, what is these weenie dogs about? And I love dachshunds. So I saw the dogs and thought, what is this about? And it said, what did it say in your post?
I don't remember it verbatim, but it was something along the lines of like, like what mine specifically? Because it was somebody else's video and I had like quote tweeted it and shared it on my profile.
Just saying something funny.
And I was like, like weenie dogs don't play. One time my dad and my stepmom have a weenie dog. So I said one time, our dachshund,
you said my weenie dog.
He demolished a den of raccoons. And I was like, they do not play around. They're small but furious.
And tracked down a deer.
He did track a deer. Yeah. He killed a den of raccoons and tracked a deer. I think that it might be verbatim what I said.
And when I read it, I thought, what?
Yeah.
And then I had to click it. And like you say, it was someone else's video. You were just
I was just sharing it. Had a thought about it.
Being funny. And when I watched it, it was two weenie dogs really teaming up on a snake, and a snake was in the little area to where its owner was, and they weren't having it.
Oh no, not at all.
They teamed up on this snake. And I watched the video, and after I watched the video, I thought, okay, she's got a personality. She's going to fit in great with the Grizzlies crowd, because that Grizzlies group, that production team.
Oh, they're awesome.
Yeah, they're
awesome. They have so much personality.
It's like a comedy show down there.
Yeah. Almost after every single game, I've gone and hung out with them, and I mean, we don't get done with games until 10:30, 11ish sometimes, and then afterwards we go to In-N-Out or Red Robin or wherever, and we'll just sit around talking for so long. They're awesome people. Yeah,
so it's a great crew, great team, and they all stick together. But that's what I was thinking about. Well, if she comes in and she works on both sides, she's going to have to get along with everybody, not knowing you've worked with some of them, like Jordan, which is a great director.
I hadn't known him prior, but when I met him, it was like an instant connection because we had both gone to Fresno State, had the same instructors, had taken the same classes, so we had something to connect on, and so... like I said earlier, he's taught me a lot, and they're an awesome crew. It's funny though, because when I came in with you the first day, before we knew I was going to be doing production with them, and I was all dressed up because we were doing TV stuff. They told me later on, they were like, "Yeah, we didn't talk to you for a while because we thought you were from corporate. We thought this is the new boss lady. That's her new boss." I was like, "I'm younger than most of you. You thought I was gonna be your new boss?"
They think that about me. I get in there. Yeah, it's funny too. I'll just walk up there like last night. You were, and just showed up right at the end just to see how you're doing. And when I popped in there, everybody gets nervous right away.
Yeah, everybody gets quiet.
Yeah, they got all real quiet. Or the other thing they say is like, "Are we on TV tonight?" Because I showed up. Yeah. No, we're not on TV tonight.
I saw Lance walking around. I saw him in the elevator. We must be on TV.
Yeah, they're all freaking out. I'm like, no, I'm always here. So
no, trust me. I know the televised games. I've got them written down.
They freak out, but yeah, it's a fun crowd down there. So I knew you had to have personality. When I saw that, I thought, oh, she's in, perfect. She'll do great.
I'm glad that's what got me the job.
That got you the job.
I hope I can put that on my resume.
So years later, you're going to be able to say the two weenie dogs teaming up on a snake did it.
Yeah, I better give credit to whoever made that video. I got to track them down and say, hey, thank you for the opportunity.
Or you might not want to track them down.
That's not their dogs anyway.
Yeah,
they look a little scary.
So in Bakersfield, growing up in Bakersfield, very similar to Fresno.
Very similar. Smaller, but similar. Not too far, about 2 hours south of here.
So what school?
I went to Bakersfield High.
Bakersfield High.
Home of the Drillers.
The Drillers. And the, not to be confused with Oildale.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Everyone loves to call me Oildale. I'm like, no, I'm from Bakersfield. Yeah. It's just a joke they like to play, and it's stuck, and there's really nothing I can do about it now.
I think everybody likes to play on Oildale.
Yeah, once something sticks with them, that's it. We're running with that bit for the rest of the season, if not longer.
Oh yeah, they found something to get. They got to the vein. so growing up, you come to Fresno State, you didn't know you were going to get into broadcasting. What was it? What was that moment when you were at Fresno State? And I think a lot of students get into school. They're not sure. They're not sure where they're going. My daughter, Zoe, she's now she's with Southern California Edison, and she wants to be in forestry, and she's up at Shaver Lake doing like her dream job already as an intern. And, I think every 2-3 months, it's a new direction. She's going, she's not sure. She sees a new area and like, ooh, I want to do this in forestry. Oh, I want to do this. So as a student and you're there's a lot of different options, a lot of things going through your head. What was it? What was that moment was it when you wrote the article?
Well, actually that article that I wrote was, this year. It was published in this past senior program. But prior to that, I had still been writing, but it was nothing sports based. I didn't realize, I didn't have classes then where I could write a sports article and get credit for it. But I was taking communications courses, and one summer I came home to Bakersfield, and actually a good family friend of ours had a connection with Mike Hart, who's an anchor for ABC 23 in Bakersfield. Yeah. And he was nice enough to let me kind of sit down and pick his brain about the broadcasting industry because I had heard about it. And I was kind of bored with communications. I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do forever. I don't even know what job I would take with this major. And I picked his brain a little bit, and he gave me the contact of Andrew Worth, who was a reporter for them who had come from Fresno State and was going back to Fresno State to work for the athletics department. So I got in touch with Andrew. He gave me his boss's contact info, Stephen Trembley, who's now my boss at Fresno State. And he interviewed me over the phone and had me come in the week before school started for like a face-to-face and gave me an internship. And I was still a comm major. I hadn't switched over yet because I wanted to kind of dip my toes in the water and get a feel for it before I made the change, and ended up loving my internship there. They hired me after about 3 months interning with them with no prior experience of anything. And I worked for them for about 2 years now, a little over 2 years. And that's kind of what I knew, like, wow, I get paid to go to sporting events and to tell the stories of athletes. And I don't really think there's anything else that could be more fun than that, at least for me. Yeah. So that's when the next year I went into Focus, which is the student-run broadcast on campus. And Faith Sidlow was the advisor for that course. And first day I introduced myself because my boss had recommended me for the class to her. And so she switched me over then, and I've been MCJ ever since, and I love it. You
love it. Awesome stuff. And it's great when you find you don't know that's what your dream is, and then you say, hey, there's money in this industry for me to go and work and enjoy what I do. Don't go away. More Business Leaders Live right here on Talk Radio 1680 KGED. We'll be right back. So our Facebook Live, make sure if you leave a comment, David or Jose, someone, we can get back to you here on the Facebook Live. Are we still on We're on Facebook Live, right? We're still on? Yeah, we're still on.
Hello, Facebook Live.
Facebook Live. Julia, so we were talking about she was going to Bakersfield and coming over to Fresno State, not knowing that this is what you were going to end up doing and doing that. And then when we come back on radio, I want to talk about maybe some of the fun stories and experiences.
Yeah.
And some of the... we talk about those trials and tribulations. You've already experienced some of them, to where you feel like the world's coming down on you and you're live.
Yeah.
And what do you do? And I've experienced that in so many different aspects, from live television broadcast to radio to everything that I've done, live big business events, and anything could go wrong. But again, I talk about what do you do when things go wrong? Yeah. That's the number one thing. And a lot of people, they crack. They can't handle the pressure.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to move when it's time to move.
And you have to. And I mean, even if you don't know what you're doing, it's like, all right, well, you better act like you know what you're doing. Just start pulling things out, replugging them in. Yeah. Because we have such technology. Just you can have the best technology and still something could go wrong. Yeah. No matter how updated it is. And so it's just
Well, like you said, it could be a cord.
Yeah, exactly. It could be a dead cord.
Or
like a glitchy cord. And, we had an issue with that at the Grizzlies the other night. It was like, hey, your camera feed's going in and out. And it was like, oh, the cord's weird. We just had to, move it a certain way, untangle it or whatever. And then our feed was clear. So
it started working again. And a lot of times, too, it'll act up and then never do it again.
Yeah.
So it's like you never know in production.
Yeah.
But you have to go through Terry Dolph.
Yeah, from CMAC, which actually I was familiar with Terry because I had heard Jordan say his name when we were in the press box at the Grizzlies, and I'm thinking, why do I know that name? And I'm like, CMAC, Terry Dolph. Well, we broadcast our Focus at Fresno State. Our Focus broadcast is through CMAC.
Okay.
And so I knew Terry because he would be in the studio on Wednesdays when we would
engineer
broadcast.
You guys, right?
Yeah,
Do the
exactly.
engineering,
Yeah. And so he'd be in there, and that's actually Focus is actually where I was on camera before I was at Fresno State. And so I reported there and I anchored, and
it's like their news broadcast there on
it's
campus.
news. They have a sports block and every now and then like an entertainment block, but I was majority of the time the sports anchor, and then I was a news anchor once, and then I did some live reporting. But it was funny because Cruz from the Grizzlies, Cruz the creator, he's like the MC.
Yeah.
He and I were in the class at the same time, and we were the news anchors together. And it was funny because neither of us are very serious people.
10 seconds.
And news is serious, and so we were laughing the whole time.
Wow. You might hear some of that again on, you're on Facebook Live, but you might hear it live on the radio.
You are listening to Business Leaders with Lance Cardoza, the behind-the-scenes story of the business shakers and movers in the Valley and beyond. Once again, here's Lance Cardoza.
Welcome back, everybody, to Business Leaders Live. Every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., I bring you business leaders throughout the Valley and abroad. And you can catch all the past episodes of Business Leaders Live at lancecardoza.com. You can also hear us around the world at my1680.com and on Facebook, Facebook Live. Hello. And you can comment right there on Facebook Live. You can see Julia Vella, my guest today in studio here at Talk Radio 1680 KGED. Julia, growing up in Bakersfield and then coming to Fresno State, having no idea that you were going to be thrusted into this field of broadcasting on the technical side of broadcasting, getting out the product and writing and interviewing athletes, and then being able to be on camera. And then, like we said at the top of the broadcast, you're doing that with Grizzlies where you're on both sides. You were directing last night, and you debuted with the Grizzlies doing a couple what we call a hit.
Yeah, opening weekend, I think.
Yeah, opening weekend. And also, I think you were on another
I was
episode.
on this past weekend a couple times. And then, I think one after opening weekend.
Yeah.
In between the past two.
So you've done a couple hits from the team store. So live during the broadcast, you'd be able to see Julia in the team store broadcasting back to our broadcasters at the time. I think it was Doug Greenwald and Dan Taylor, a color commentator, Steve Hosey, former.
Yeah, Steve Hosey's been there a few times now.
Yeah.
CJ Wilson was there once.
CJ Wilson's been four times now. Yeah, CJ Wilson, major league player, and the Angels, and great guy, and he wants to come back again and do some more. So you're working with some professionals, been in the business and been doing it. So it's pretty cool. To be right out of Fresno State and having these opportunities and being able to do that. Working in production, just in the little time that you've done, and also on camera, we talked about anything could go wrong, and probably some funny stories that you've experienced or had happen in those situations.
Yeah.
Can you recall anything that was either one of those real nightmare days, or it was something that happened that was so funny that you just couldn't keep it all together?
I'm trying to think because I'm sure there's one that does stand out, but the frequency of like how often that something goes wrong, and it could just be something stupid and we laugh about it later, but everybody's like frantic in the moment.
Yes.
It's, it's just, I can't pick one out off the top of my head. At the Grizzlies, Jordan is comical if you don't know Jordan.
Oh, yes.
And so
I produced the television when they go to television on KAIL, My Central Valley. And Jordan's usually our director for the live television. So I've got to know Jordan pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
And entertaining.
Yes.
So
witty
entertaining. And smart.
Quick. Very quick.
Yeah.
And Jordan and I, we have some discussions. We go back and forth quite a bit.
It's called a discussion? I've heard it.
It's a colorful discussion. Yeah. And so we're both pretty quick, and so it's really fun. But I remember I think it was at the beginning of this homestand, something was going wrong with the TriCaster, and Jordan's running back and forth, screaming in the press box. I'm like, well, I'm not super familiar with this particular piece of technology because I've only worked here,
And the TriCaster is the board, the switcher It's the device that switches between cameras and it flies your graphics. It does everything.
It's what you run the show off of. It's where you take the camera shots, where you have everything run out of, and it streams out of there.
You live and die by that machine.
Yes, if there is no TriCaster, you can have as many cameras as you want, but there will be no show.
No show, yes.
And so there was like a problem, and it was funny because everybody was so frantic, and then Jordan goes back and he figures out it's just this cord, and it wasn't his fault that this is just what he figured out. It was just a glitch with the technology, but it was just like a problem with the interface where all he had to do was like unscrew it, unplug it, and then replug it back in,
reset it,
and yeah, it was funny though, just seeing Jordan all worked up. Yeah. It probably shouldn't bring me this much joy, but it's just his reactions are too comical to not.
It does, and it's and that's when I had several directors we worked with in the beginning to try to figure out before we went to TV. Mm-hmm. So we had different people go on board, and I sat there and I watched, and they had no idea that that's why I was hanging out.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out, do we have the capability of taking the broadcast? And we broadcast anywhere from 18 to 22 games to KAIL. And on the other side of radio, doing Business Leaders Live, I produce television and do work in video production. But so I was there trying to figure out, do we have the ability to work with what we have there? And I really liked Jordan, level-headed and really could get things done, communicated with everybody well.
And knows almost everything that there is to know about anything.
And when he missed a shot, he was so mad at himself.
Yeah, because he knows what he's capable of.
Yes. And I knew that's a guy we can work with because he wants to be so good. And this was just for, like we talked about at the top of the show, the board show. Mm-hmm. So this is just up on the screen.
Yeah, it's not even televised.
Yeah,
but
and it wasn't exactly the way he wanted it. And it was going back to the MILB network, and people could watch it, and he was like, yeah, but that's our work. And so I knew he was passionate about it.
And that's like the work ethic that you need to have. It might not be streamed. This isn't on national television, but it's your job.
It is.
And the better your work is, like at a lower level, like how do you expect to succeed at a higher level if, things aren't perfect and things will never be perfect, but, as close to perfect as you can get them.
And that's what I tell people, own the position. And that's what people like yourself, Julia, Jordan, were talking about. The people that made it from Kim to Faith and back in the journalism department, they took pride in exactly what they did in their day to day. And they made sure that what they put out was the best thing they could put out with what they had at the time. And I see so many cameramen and that it's just a job and just here. And what difference would it make if you put a little more emphasis on what you're doing at that moment? And those are the same people that say, well, why is me? I never get the shot or something doesn't happen. You don't create it for yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to own your position and what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You've got to own it and be the best at that you're doing at that moment, because it assists the team to make everything better. And that transcends into every bit of business that you can imagine.
Yeah.
That there's nothing that doesn't connect with that. So everybody has to own their piece of it.
And people just recognize hard work too.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really helped me at Fresno State was that, I came in as a comm major, knew nothing about production, but my boss gave me a camera the first day I was there as an intern, and I was like, I don't know how to do this. And he's like, this is how you zoom. This is how you record. Go shoot some highlights.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're not going to be good. Little did I know, he's not using these for anything. I wasn't good with the camera yet. Yeah. But then come a year from then, I was directing. That was a soccer game in August. And then come the next August, I was directing a soccer game. And, I had no idea when I went into it that I looked at the other people doing it. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. They know how to direct. They know how to do all this. I'll never do that. No. And then it was like the better I did at different smaller tasks, just coming in for office hours, doing things that seem like very minuscule, like editing GIFs or doing just like editing videos, just kind of putting the hours in and making myself available and making sure that they knew that I wanted to learn more.
Yeah.
That's what really helped me. And so, now it turned into a job for me as a comm major still. And then that's kind of, like I said earlier, that's what made me want to switch over was once I got into it and I realized how much I loved it. But I had no idea that come my senior year of college, I'd be doing interviews and doing stand-ups and I'd be on camera. I thought I was always just kind of going to be learning how to use a camera. Yeah. So it's crazy how much hard work can do for you.
And so not everybody just has that instilled in them as a young age. Was there an influence on you? Was there somebody in your family?
Absolutely. Yeah. My mom works harder than anybody I know. And I think for me, just going into a field that's dominated by men, having a strong female role model in my life, like my mom, who works so hard, it was very important for me. And it's definitely kind of been, I mean, I don't want to sound super cliche, but it's inspiring to have a woman who's works that hard and then to want to do the same. And so I think, yeah, my mom. And my mom's also the one who got me into sports. She's from Albany, New York. So huge Yankees fan, grew up in a big baseball household. So that's where the sports comes from, which I don't think a lot of girls say that they like sports because of their mom. It's probably more of a dad thing. And, my dad likes sports too. He was an amazing football player, but yeah, my mom definitely.
Mom's the driving force.
She is. My mom's the driving force. Yes.
So, and I grew up with my mom. I've mentioned her several times. She's actually called in on the show. It was quite comical.
Oh, how
Mom's
cool.
probably listening now, but yeah, Mom's on.
I think my mom's listening too. She better be.
She is. Yeah, she's in Bakersfield.
She wouldn't miss it.
On my1680.com. Mm-hmm. She's listening online.
She's probably got it open on there and Facebook because she likes to see it too.
Oh well, hi Mom. How are you
Mom.
doing? Yeah.
I know she was just waiting for me to name drop.
Yeah.
So,
so give your mom's name.
Connie Vella.
Connie Vella. Cool. So Mom was a driving force to that. So there was somebody that hard work will pay off. And I think a lot of times, sometimes there might be somebody that has dreams and they want to chase something and do that, but there's not that one person that believes in somebody young. And I think that's such a big piece. And whether you're a parent or you're just a guy that's producing baseball at the Grizzlies and looking for another person to fill the spot. And I always think of, I don't want to fill the spot. I want to find a team player. Mm-hmm. I want to go to ultimately my boss, the owners of the Grizzlies and Derek, the president, and go to them, and Derek now an owner too, and saying that I found a team member that can be real valuable to the whole process. And then speaking with Ray in production and saying, I think this person would be really good and fits into this group really well. And but believing in somebody and telling them when you truly believe it, and I tell you this, and Mom, Connie's going to agree too, that you're going to go big places. You're going to do big things. And we'll look back at this radio show and Faith is going to be proud and Kim's going to be proud and say, hey, I had a piece in helping this person along. So I always tell young minds all the time too, believe in what you can do in yourself. No one's going to do it for you. People will open the door along the way, but I tell people all the time, you have to kick it in.
Oh yeah.
Once somebody cracks that door open, you got to kick it in and go in and do it yourself.
Yeah,
and you're doing it.
I'm trying to kick in as many doors as I can. Once you get a college degree, you're like, all right, where are the jobs at?
Yeah, what's the opportunity? And you want to learn. You're a sponge.
Yeah.
So a sponge.
I do want to learn.
Yeah, and both of my daughters, they're both that way. That they're sponges. They want to learn. They want to do something great, and they want to accomplish these big goals in their life. So I tell people all the time, don't be afraid. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall down. Sometimes it's not going to pay you right away, but do what you love and believe in it. And when you do, and you put in the work, it pays off. Don't go away. You got one more segment here of Business Leaders Live. I'm here with Julia Vella. We're live on Facebook. Join us. We'll be right back. Cool. So one more. See, it goes quick.
Yeah, it does go really quick.
It goes quick, and then it's over. Anything you want to talk about? Something that we want to bring up when we come back? Facebook Live. I don't know if we've got any comments or anything, guys. But if we do, if someone can get back to them for me, I'm going to share it here real quick. Cool. Sylvia Sanchez. Do you know Sylvia?
I do not.
She waves. Hi, Sylvia.
Hello, Sylvia.
Do we have a...
Oh, we're just looking at the lighting.
Oh, okay. Trying to dial it in.
Yeah, because I'm going to take a photo of how the lights are set up.
Yeah, then we know. Cool. I'm pale. She's tan, so that's part of the issue.
That Italian skin.
She's got that Italian skin. I got the Portuguese bad hair. So Italian, mom,
Dad. Yes.
Okay, and mom.
We're not really sure. I keep telling her we need to do like an ancestry. She says Irish, but we're not positive. But yeah, my dad's side of the family's Italian. They're actually all in the wine industry.
Oh, cool.
And so yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, my great uncle, my grandpa's younger brother, is the senior vice president of wine making. I believe that's the name of his position at Gallo. And then I have an uncle who's a vineyard manager at Chateau Montelena in Napa, and my cousin works up there too. My brother did the wine stuff for a while, and he's a really skilled outdoorsman. He is really big on fishing and hunting and those sort of things, and is hoping to start up a guide business soon. So that's kind of his forte. And then my little sister is going to be a senior in high school, and then she's going to leave us forever, probably go to New York and be some amazing musician. She's very musically talented.
Wow.
So it's safe to say that everybody in our family has very big dreams.
Big
So,
dreams. And
yeah.
our mom and dad probably instilled that in you guys.
Yeah,
to
definitely.
just go after it. Yeah. That's awesome stuff. And my mom and dad and mom, I don't know if she's joining on Facebook, but they were hardworking. They were always, I had to raise my sisters. And when my sister shared this earlier, I was like, no, they tortured us. So yes, I had to torture my sisters, but they were always working all the time, but they were always they believe in you. And I've shared this on the radio before, but my dad one time, he was a bullfighter, a rodeo clown.
Oh, yeah, you told me about that, because I told you when I was little, I told my dad I was going to be a bull rider.
You're going to be a bull
rider? That was
rider?
what I thought I was going to be when I grew up.
We got to tell that on the radio.
When I was like 7, I was like, yep, that's what I'm going to do. I don't think I thought about all the broken bones or the fact that, at the time that I was saying that, I was probably in like the 6th grade and only weighed 65 pounds. But
See, and you probably would love Zoe. Zoe's my youngest daughter, but she's that same type. She's going to be a rock star. Then she was going to be this, and she was going to be that. Yeah, it was always something. And then
I went actress to bull rider. She was a professional
mascot at 16.
Yeah, you told me.
Yeah, so we can't say what she was.
Oh, that's right. I almost said it too, so it's a good thing you said that.
I know. I had to try to let you know. But she, so professionally, she was a mascot, and she's now retired from that. Mm-hmm. What she's 19.
She's doing the forestry stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She's retired already.
She's retired mascot.
But yeah.
Yesterday was like National Mascot Day or something too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's funny because Time Out, our mascot at Fresno State, he had won the last thing they went to. He was like the best mascot in the NCAA. Oh. He had beat out, I think it was like us. It came down to us and then the ASU Sun Devils, and then he won. And he did like a jump in the air, land in a splits, and that took the cake.
That's what's awesome with Time Out. Time Out is always an athlete.
Oh, I love Time Out. Yes.
I always put an athlete as Time Out, because Time Out, you could tell, as a former athlete,
Time Out can do
athlete,
some things.
Yeah.
Business leaders in the Valley and beyond. This is Business Leaders with Lance Cardoza.
Welcome back to Business Leaders. I want to remind everybody, go to lancecardoza.com and listen to the past episodes, and this episode later today at lancecardoza.com. Julia Vella, she went to Fresno State, mass communication and journalism, started doing both sides of the fence, of what we call it, where she was doing the production side and also working in front of the camera. And I tell people all the time, I love to feature the rising stars in business, and I really feel that Julia is going to do some big things, and you already are. You're already, last night she was directing television with the Fresno Grizzlies, or directing the in-game board show with the Grizzlies, and might be directing TV for us one of these days.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We might have to pry Jordan away from the seat to get me to do TV, though. He would be backseat directing the entire time. That's what I call it.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah.
Takes pride in it, complete pride in it, and he's great.
You got to appreciate it.
Yeah. So, but we're doing more and more all the time. So there's always an opportunity to do something there with the Grizzlies and other things. There's tons of productions out there. In today's world in TV, a lot of people say it's harder to get involved in television. No, there's more to get involved today with social media. Now, look, we're on a radio show with Talk Radio 1680 KGED, but it's not only on the radio on 1680, it's also online at my1680.com, where your mom, Connie, in Bakersfield can listen to it, or anybody around the world. Yeah. Your sister, when she goes to New York, could hear you.
Yeah.
If she goes there when she graduates. During the break, she was talking about her sister.
Oh, she's a little musical prodigy.
Yeah.
Yeah, my baby sis.
She was going to graduate and maybe go East Coast.
She has a year left of school, and she's the past couple of years has been talking about an interest in New York, and she wants to study the arts and do music, something music-based. She's not sure, but I'm like, I went to college, didn't know what I wanted to do until I was a couple years in, so
you never know.
Definitely feel that, and I think most college students do. But yeah, she's very musically gifted. I'm really proud of her. She used to be very shy, and she got up just recently and did a whole concert, like a solo, and played her guitar and sang a song by the Beatles, and it was like the sweetest thing.
Wow, very cool. But what I was talking about is in production. We're on Facebook right now. You can go to Talk Radio 1680 KGED, and there's a broadcast there and images in between the radio. And so today's media is instant. Before you had the the big anchor television shows and the big radio shows, and that was it. And there was no other option. Now online, there's so many different ways to get your content and get your content instantly. And even in today's world of news, a lot of people say, well, news is dying. No, it's increasingly getting...
Yeah, it's changing. It's not, it's not remaining the same. And I think that, like, a lot of people said that when I was going into journalism. I remember one time I was talking to a nurse about something. I don't even remember where I was. And she was like, we've had a lot of people, come try and work for us that used to be in journalism. It's a dying field. I was like, thanks for the encouragement,
Exactly.
And specifically, though, in sports, I don't think that you'll ever have a problem with the sports being a dying field because, even if you're not watching news on TV, you're going to get it somewhere else. And with sports, it's like people are always going to watch sports.
And I tell people all the time that say that. The first time, and we'll go through some big world events that happen, the moment they happen, everybody goes, oh, I got it on Facebook. That's where I saw it. Well, where did that content come from?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that company, CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox, Univision, Telemundo, whoever it is, I probably left somebody out. They were delivering that content through that social media, which those numbers that were generated on that social media are eyeballs that are going back to the station. So they have a whole nother channel, whole nother medium through Instagram, Facebook, and every other opportunity out there, YouTube, to be able to deliver content. So the need of content has only grown. And you take companies like Major League Baseball, the brand, the WWE, has their own network where there's a 24-hour driven content.
Yeah.
That they're always looking for content creators and people to work in the production side and in front of the camera. So the need has only become bigger.
Absolutely.
The news piece has only become bigger. Like you were saying, though, it's become very... it's a changing landscape. So if you don't change with it, yes, you're going to die.
Then your field specifically,
newspapers. And newspapers struggled with that for years. Now, the ones that embrace digital technology,
those ones, like New York Times and,
exactly,
Wall
Philadelphia.
Street Journal, they're all on things like that. I mean, there's a ton that are online. And
Yep.
But I think as young people, we do kind of turn to Twitter or Facebook, or there's even Instagram TV now where you can watch however long of content on there that's longer than it used to be. And so
I will tell you, because we work in the media side of business, I will tell you one of the greatest experiences I had is I went to the Milken Institute, which is a global think tank of CEOs. And I wanted to sneak into the ballroom at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. And there was a man sitting up there with a couple people at a table sitting right up front. And I figured I'm going to sneak in from the side door and get a good seat. And this is where they've had the Emmys and it's Beverly Hilton. And I think the governor was speaking at the time. I think it was Schwarzenegger. And I wanted to get a decent seat. So Secret Service was roaming around everywhere. And because I think the president was there speaking also. And I had got in there, and there's a little old man who was sitting there at the table. And I recognized the voice. And as I got closer to the table, I was sitting a couple tables away. He said, "Hey, son, come over here and sit with us." So I'm like, okay. And I come over there, and I thought it was Jane Fonda at first, but a young Jane Fonda. And it was the daughter, Ted Turner's daughter.
Oh, wow.
Jane's daughter.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Jane, because you wouldn't see them together.
Yeah.
but Ted was sitting there. And it was Ted that asked me to come over.
Oh,
so
cool.
I got to sit right there at Ted Turner's table. Yeah, we have available seat. Just sit right here. And was just talking to him for a while and just talking back and forth. And then here comes Sumner Redstone with Viacom. And here comes Rupert Murdoch that was just buying the Wall Street Journal. And I'll never forget it. Ted Turner yells out at Rupert Murdoch, "Why are you buying that rag?" Just like that. And he said, that rag is reliable sources. And that's what the problem is with news today. We don't have enough reliable sources that people can trust on. There's so much information out there, you can't figure out what your reliable source is.
Well, and when people see it on social media, I think they take the keywords in it and then they'll tweet it out themselves. And then it's like you see what the people you're following are posting, and they're not, I don't think that, Becky down the street is tweeting out credible news, so I'm not going to believe it. But a lot of people do. They just kind of see it, and it's like, oh, it's on the internet. It's true.
They believe Julia has 2 weenie dogs that...
that demolish snakes all the time, and that's what they were made to do. They were bred specifically for the purpose of ripping apart snakes.
Because of social media, it does that. That's all the time we have. We're wrapping up here at Business Leaders Live. Julia, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks
Julia
for having
Vella.
me.
It's great to have somebody on here that's the rising star. I really feel you're going to do great. Thank you for joining us over at the Grizzlies. Make sure you listen to this episode with Julia and myself at lancecardoza.com, and join me next week right here on Talk Radio 1680 KGED, or you can listen to us live on my1680.com. Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. I bring you Business Leaders Live.